And what they do, what this is using is what we call exceptionally low frequencies. And they shoot it off the ionosphere. Any ham radio operators here? If you're a ham operator, you know what the ionosphere is, because you can actually bounce radio waves off the ionosphere and talk clear across the United States with a very small ham radio. So that's just one example, US patent. You can look it up for yourself. And then on the back, Operation Popeye. The government was so successful in 1967 that the United Nations outlawed geoengineering. So what they did is you take a military situation, you had Laos, Cambodia, and North Vietnam that had deep tunnels intertwined. And those tunnels were very, very profound, to say the least. So the CIA said, well, how are we going to flush these guys out? So they said, why don't we flood them out? So with geoengineering, they actually caused the monsoon to go 2 months longer, and they annihilated entire villages. And you can read all of this. This is just the beginning. I didn't want to give you the 72-page report. But it was so successful that the United Nations said, stop, time out, don't do it. You can't do that anymore. You're wiping out entire villages. So now, why do I tell you about this? Drum roll, please. It's because if you think that this last tornado or any things that are going on with the weather is normal, it's not. And so you can go to climateviewer.com and you can actually watch the manipulation of the latest tornado. So what can we do about it? Well, there's actually a gentleman at Climate Viewer that's actually trying to create a program called the Environmental Modification Accountability Act, aka NMOD, which would hold these companies accountable. So in 1977, it actually became law. So you can actually look at the civilian corporations that are paid to do the geoengineering. And you can actually go there, you can find out the name of the company that did the geoengineering, you can find out their number, and you can actually call them. In fact, you could call up a company, you can go to weathermodifications.com right now on your phone, and you can call up a company in Texas and ask them, tell them you need some snow. So weather modifications are happening all over, but the CIA has created a way that you think that it's really not happening. So their disinformation program has been very, very effective. And I understand the business of disinformation because I held a top secret clearance in the Army. I was a NICTAC, I was a nuclear chemical targeting analyst. So I understand that. So I also provided you another interesting brochure. I'm hoping that you'll all take the time to go through it, stick it in the important reading room, your bathroom, and go through it. And you will see that the clouds that are being formed when they form a line, that's not normal. Is that my time? Okay, so let me give you another example that you can do a brain check on your own. Look at the aircraft in the sky and then go to an air show. So I've actually been the guy in the back of the airplane in an air show when smoke's on. So I'm the guy that talks to the ground, and when we reach the point where they want the smoke to come on, because they're measuring the wind, I say smoke on, and I tell the lead pilot and everybody, he tells all the aircraft to smoke on, and the missing man formation takes place, right? So that is what they do for that is they're actually using corn oil or vegetable oil, one of those two. And you'll see, you can actually go and you can go to, everybody's heard of what's the power drink? Red Bull. And you can look up Corinth, like the city of Corinth from the Bible. Look up Corinth Red Bull. And you can watch as the aircraft goes up, does a loop, and comes back on his own smoke. And the smoke's dissipated by then. So if you go out, that's one example of smoke dissipating. Now it's always cold here, right, in the wintertime. So when you go outside and you breathe, here's the equivalent, if that was not filled with aluminum, okay? Here's the equivalent. I go outside, I breathe, and I see a little cloud. That's literally a contrail by definition, okay? It's ice crystals, that's all it is. It's a conversion, right? So the equivalent to what you see in the sky would be if I walked for miles or skied down a slope where I had my breath And then, boom, I look back, and for miles, I see my own breath. The air's thinner at 32,000 feet. It's not thicker. So what you see forming up there has been a disinformation, and they say chemtrails are bad. Well, the official name is not chemtrails. In fact, you can use this brochure. You can go to Wikipedia, and what he's done in here is he's given you all the definitions in here. And Wikipedia on one side will say there's no such thing as chemtrails, but then they'll say there is such thing as solar radiation management. There is such thing as cloud seeding. So cloud seeding is very dangerous. Here's the bottom line, is that has aluminum in it. Okay, and we wonder, so I'm a financial advisor. I've had my own multi-million-dollar company for 25 years. Didn't start that way, but this is a multi-trillion-dollar business, okay, because of the insurance companies. The private companies aren't using as many bad sulfates. The problem is the government sulfates. The programs where you can see the aircraft isn't marked. So they're using aluminum. How do I know that? I've befriended Rosalind Peterson. You can look her up, Rosalind Peterson, on YouTube. Wonderful, wonderful lady. She spoke before the United Nations and represented the United States of America on geoengineering. And she personally sent me 64,000 pieces of EPA data that show you that there's strontium and aluminum in our soil. So if you want to find out more about it and tell our citizens about it, look up, have the EPA, not the EPA, have your own scientist and actual biochemist go out and test the water. Why? Because this is the most important thing. It's affecting everyone. On a heavy spray day, every single person in here gets statistics on what's really going on with people's health, okay? If we look at the curve of centenarians, people getting older, and you look at I'm almost done, the people getting Alzheimer's, okay? It spikes. There's no rationale why it's spiking. There is rationale, because there's aluminum on the frontal lobe. You guys are tremendous. You got all these things coming at you in closing. Thank you so much. I'm doing this. I bought these brochures for you. Please keep them, take them. I have nothing to gain other than helping the people of Nixa, helping you. If you want, Cindy can call me, ask me to come back. I'll take you out to lunch. I'll show you what you can do not to get Alzheimer's, because there's actually natural solutions. God bless every one of you. Thank you for all stepping up and doing this demanding job. I've seen what Drew put together, and you guys are really working on a lot. Really appreciate everything that you're doing. Use me as a resource. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thanks a lot, George.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ron Sanders. I live at 976 Glen Oaks Drive. I'm really concerned about where we are as a society. And you might think that, down here in Nixa, Missouri, we don't really have that much influence over big things, okay? But I'm here to tell you that we do. Believe it or not, setting an example is a huge thing. A couple of examples that I'd like to point out tonight happened on Friday. Did y'all know that 750 million people tested positive last week, according to a Supreme Court justice? These guys have a duty for life, and they're supposed to be some of the smartest people in our country, and we're supposed to trust them, okay, to know a lot more than us and to make good, conscious decisions. Another Supreme Court justice, during the same hearing, claimed that over 100,000 children were hospitalized because of the coronavirus, and many of them on ventilators. had to question that, since the CDC director said across the country there's like maybe 35,000 kids, mostly with 3 or more comorbidities, hospitalized. Huge, huge disparity there in information. I've been accused several times of providing misinformation, disinformation, some other kind of information, falsehoods, things that aren't true, all those kind of things. And even whenever I point to facts and I point to actual evidence, people still say, no, you're not telling the truth because the Supreme Court justice said it. And I'm here to tell you that there is a reason that we are all individuals, because we can all think for ourselves. And we need to think for ourselves, because otherwise, what's the point? Okay? Now, I wrote down on here, on the little piece of paper, be good. And let me explain what that means. It has to do with ethics, and it has to do with your moral standards, your moral standings, and your ethical responsibilities. And I've talked about this over the past year, but I'd like to bring it around to just a basic thing of being good. We can be nice. Everybody can be nice. And sometimes being nice causes you to set the rules aside. It causes you to give people leave of certain things. Hey, let him go. He's a nice guy, so we don't want to give him a ticket. Or let that guy go. He only tried to steal a little bit of money. Things like that. That's sometimes where being nice takes people. But it takes a little bit more moral and ethical standing inside of you to do what's good, okay? And that is the hard thing sometimes. You have to know your stuff. You have to study. You have to spend the extra time putting things into your brain. And then when you're in the situation, you sometimes have to step back and say, hey, I need to think about this for a second, because is this good? Am I doing something good here? And everybody in here has the ability to do something good and provide a very good example. Now, we are not really subordinate to Christian County, and we're not subordinate to Springfield and Greene County. We are a separate entity. And there are a lot of things that are going on in Greene County, in Christian County, that may not be good for our city. And that's where I haven't seen a lot of action. I haven't seen the city council get involved in some county business that may or may not be affecting us in the wrong way. And it may need to start happening. Maybe not so much with Christian County, but we have a significant population where y'all can start putting pressure on Greene County and Springfield also. One of the biggest things from last year that I noticed is that we want to follow these people, and we want to follow their example and stuff like that. No. It's time to change up. It's time to start looking at things and deciding that we want to do what's good for our city, and start pushing back and start setting the example and start projecting what's good, so that our city will stay a good place to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Have any other visitors signed up? Anyone else would like to speak before we close the visitors section? All right. Go ahead and close the visitor section and move on to our presentation. Mr. Douglas. Okay.
We did miss the first couple seconds of streaming the meeting, but it's been streaming, I think, for most so far, and we're still trying to get some stuff figured out so we can switch cameras and things like that. So thanks to Pitt, they're working on it live for us.
Thank you.
Anyway, so the presentation tonight's update on the strategic plan. We did one of these back in November on the first section, which was high performance government, and that's kind of about that section was all about kind of how we do things, whatever it is that we're doing. But the other 5 areas of the strategic plan are really about kind of different core cross-disciplinary things that we are focused on as a city. City governments are focused on, we're more than just, like school districts are focused on education, right? They go really deep on one thing, right? Trying to educate people from different ages and all that stuff. But we do a lot of different things, right? We gotta do streets, we gotta do policing, we gotta do parks, we gotta do all these different functions, plus the admin, right? We've gotta do all the stuff that, that empowers all that stuff to happen. So this is the first of the presentations diving into those different sections. It'll be on community safety. I'm not going to go over all this stuff every single time, but it's here, and if you do want me to go over or remind you anything about how we developed the strategic plan, I certainly can. We did that through 2020. We had a website where we collected a lot of input from the community. We had people on the committee. We came up with a plan structure, and what I'm going to present to you today is an update on the action steps that are completed, newly operational, or in progress and underway since the adoption of the plan at the end of 2020. Our strategic vision statement, just as a reminder, is that the city of Nixa will be a high-performance government, creating a safe community, reliable infrastructure, and sustainable economy with a vibrant atmosphere united by hometown spirit. So community safety is what we're talking about tonight. What does that mean? Well, we define it as we will promote an exceptional quality of life through partnerships and proactive measures to ensure Nixa is safe, healthy, and welcoming. So let's dive into that. So we have 10 action plans underneath this that were written by the Strategic Planning Committee. That was folks from the committee that were, or folks from the community that were brought in to help write these action plans. The action plans are set in stone. We can't change them as we want or as our mood changes through the 5 years. The idea is that we, the staff can work on action steps, which are the ways that we accomplish the goals. But the action plans, those are the goals that are set by that committee of citizens that kind of gave us the commission, if you will, of what we should focus on for the next 5 years. And obviously, City Council adopted and approved those action plans. So we're sticking to those goals. So what we're talking about tonight is, what are we doing to achieve those goals? So the first one is, in order to provide excellent police services, the City of Nixa shall, Action Plan 1, build community trust of the police department through improved transparency and communication. We have 9 action steps that have been assigned to city staff under that action plan. In progress so far, we have published an annual report on multiple public platforms. That's one that we're working on right now for 2021. We'll be publishing that and getting that out in ways that we have not in previous years. Also in progress is providing additional training to officers on mental health and substance abuse. We've actually done a little bit of that in 2021 and more on that coming this year. In progress as well is partnering with schools to send officers to school events. We currently send officers now to the football games, whereas we did not before we did this strategic plan. So that we're starting to make some progress there. We are also expanding our use of crisis intervention teams and trainings. We've got some more training that's gone on, and we actually lost our crisis intervention team liaison that was on the police staff, but it's been reassigned to another officer, and we'll be kind of gearing that back up and expanding that in the department. And then also we are participating in the state-federal program now to report the use of force stats on an annual basis. We were not doing that before. Also of note, this is not actually an action step that we had identified because our transition to the NIBRS crime reporting system was kind of already underway at the time we planned, the time we worked on the strategic plan. But it is important to know that in the area of building trust and transparency and communication, because as a result of our participation in that NIBRS crime stat program with the FBI, the public now has more access to more of our crime stat data through the FBI website. So there's more of our data that's available to the public. So that's good for transparency, certainly. Action Plan 2. In order to provide excellent police services, the City of Nixa shall provide voters an opportunity to fund law enforcement operations and facilities to meet the community's growing needs and demands. There's only one action step assigned there, and Jimmy Lyles, is our city's administrator, continues to research the best way to fund those needs, and council continues to consider possible funding sources to meet the needs of the police department for additional personnel and facility expansion, as our current budget cannot afford the building expansion or additional officers. As you guys know, we stretched our budget pretty much as far as we could go for 2022, and certainly I think our police department is very appreciative of the fact that you stretched it enough to pay for across-the-board raise for our officers, but we know that it did not stretch far enough to add those extra officers or to pay for the facility expansions. We're going to have to find a funding source for those things. In order to provide excellent police services, the City of Nixa shall Action Plan 3, expand police department facilities to address the growth of the department and the need for additional workspace. There's 3 action steps assigned here. 2 of them are in progress. The first is designing the building expansion for the police department headquarters to include parking and training needs. The design has been budgeted for 2022, so that's underway and in progress. But again, the funding source has got to be identified in order to actually build that project. Also in progress this year is the designing and building of the range and training facility that was budgeted for this year, so we look forward to adding that facility. Action plan number 4, we need to offer more trainings and education opportunities to the public regarding policing and safety-related issues. There are 2 action steps assigned underneath this plan. One is already completed. We've secured grant funding to enhance the Citizens Police Academy program through a grant we got through the Nixa Community Foundation in 2021, and that money will be spent this year to improve the Citizens Police Academy program. And also assigned for this year is evaluating the trainings that are desired and needed by the community and appropriate for the department to provide. So there's a lot of kind of different ideas that got kicked around back when we look at all the input we collected from the community and from that strategic planning committee, and the police department has it on their calendar. Excuse me, has it on their calendar for this year to look into those things and try to identify which we want to actually start to provide. Community safety. In order to promote health and safety through community partnerships, the City of Nixa shall Action Plan number 5, foster partnerships to enhance long-term crisis intervention programs. There are 6 action steps assigned here. The first that's in progress is a program to better support the mental health of officers, and that was budgeted in 2022, so thank you for putting that in the budget this year. Also in progress is evaluating how to better support the mental health of crime victims and members of the public who our officers come into contact with. We are already starting to work on that. Operational since 2021 is creating a partnership with the school SROs and the Christian County Child Crimes Task Force to assist investigations in which children are victims. That's a new partnership that was established by Chief Campbell with our other agency partners around the county and is well underway. In order to improve pedestrian and driver safety, the City of Nixa shall Action Plan number 6, prioritize high traffic areas when upgrading sidewalks and crosswalks. There are 4 action steps assigned here. Nearly completed is the new crosswalk at the intersection of Aldersgate and Main. We have kind of been delayed by the materials slowdown and supply chain issues. I think right now, Doug, last thing we're waiting on is for the company that installs that stuff to come along and actually program the signals. Once they're programmed, it'll all be going up and running with that new crosswalk. Operational since 2021 is communicating an annual summary of our ADA transition plan. That's bringing our sidewalks up to ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act compliance. Those standards have changed. The goalposts have moved, if you will, over time. And so we have to bring all of our sidewalks in town up to that new standard. And we are communicating that annual summary every year now regarding which areas are getting improved. And there's some different rules that we have to follow as far as which areas we have to improve and when. Also operational since 2021 is communicating about each year's sidewalk improvement plan, and projects include sidewalk projects that come on our CIP list, our capital improvement plan. Our mill and overlay plan also dictates which areas have to get new sidewalks or sidewalk improvements, and then the ADA plan obviously also dictates which areas we have to bring up to code for ADA compliance on those sidewalk ramps. In order to improve pedestrian and driver safety, the City of Nixa shall, action plan number 7, provide a safer method for pedestrian travel along Missouri Street. There is only one action step assigned here, but it's not in progress yet due to need for funding. The design for this project is actually 95% complete. We just got to find a funding source in order to kind of keep that ball moving on that project. It's just going to be a very expensive project. In order to improve pedestrian and driver safety, the City of Nixa shall, action plan number 8, employ more traffic calming devices to encourage compliance with speed limits. There are 7 action steps currently assigned, and as you can see, most of those are actually already in progress or completed. So in progress, we've created a plan for future traffic calming devices to be installed, or we're in the process of creating that plan. It's kind of an ongoing and everyday analysis for Jeff and our street department team to kind of keep an eye out for those areas that might need, say, a roundabout or a chicane or something that would kind of help control speeding in an area. And they're going to continue to kind of monitor and kind of start to keep a list of those areas that are identified for potential future projects. Also in progress is purchasing and deploying more mobile signs which display a driver's current speed, which can be moved from 2 problem areas in a complaint-driven manner. We bought some of those in 2021, and we'll be buying more this year, and we'll be making good progress on those. The good thing also about those signs is that they also help as traffic counters, so they're kind of serving double duty there. Completed in 2021, we installed chicanes on Old Castle and on Elegant. That's relevant to this, certainly, as well as the installation of the full-size roundabout at Old Castle and Tracker. And in 2021, we completed an upgrade of school warning lights at the junior high at Matthews, SB, and on Cheyenne. And budgeted for this year, we're going to be enlarging the roundabout at Northview and Gregg. So all of those things are actionable items, things that we have done and are doing to help try to control speeding and limit that dangerous driving on some of our city streets. In order to enhance emergency preparedness, the City of Nixa shall, action plan 9, develop and annually review a comprehensive continuity plan for all operations to ensure uninterrupted city functions during all hazards incidents. There is 1 action step assigned, and it is scheduled to begin this year to get that project underway. In order to enhance emergency preparedness, the City of Nixa shall, action plan 10, prioritize funding for facilities, equipment, and technology necessary to ensure the city is prepared for all hazard incidents. There are 5 action steps assigned, and all of them are in progress, which is great. So we're participating in any countywide radio system upgrade for police communications. That's a project that Chief has already been investigating as far as whether can we work with city utilities of Springfield or get on the Moshwin system and improve our radio connectivity across the state. And I think you've heard about that recently at a couple of the recent council meetings from Chief. Also in progress with the police department is a new police drone program. We've purchased a drone, and we've identified a couple pilots and somebody to manage that program. They're still doing some training, and we'll get that underway this year. Also in progress is starting a Narcan program to help officers handle drug overdose cases and potential exposure to strong narcotics such as fentanyl. This is a project that's being researched and is being developed by the police department, and hope to get underway this year. Also in progress is purchasing upgraded handguns to allow for optics in an effort to increase accuracy. That's budgeted for this year. And also in progress is purchasing equipment and deploying a police mobile command post. That vehicle's been delivered, and we are in the process of outfitting it and getting it ready for operation. And that'll happen sometime this year. It'll be ready to go into the field. So, in summary, community safety, we've got 10 action plans. 0 of them are fully completed and operational. And 8 of those action plans have already seen some progress, or staff are actively working behind the scenes on action steps to fulfill those goals. Again, we've got, the way this is written, the goal is to get these things done by 2025, or make progress on those things by 2025, right? And then 39 action steps are assigned to staff in total. 19 of those are in progress or budgeted for this year, and 7 are already completed or operational. Also of note, so these are things that are not action steps or things that we set as goals that we want to achieve, but things that are just kind of feathers in our cap, or things that are notable about our commitment to safety. Street lighting improvements are technically categorized in our strategic plan under reliable infrastructure, but those investments certainly also have a public safety aspect to them. By having a well-lit street, it's a safer street, but those are not counted in this section. Also, we won a digging safety award this year, again from Spire Gas. We won that again also last year, earned by Nixa Utilities for both 2020 and 2021. So that shows our commitment to being safe in our field, and when our guys are working out there digging on construction projects, we're being careful not to create a gas leak. And that's a safety issue, certainly. Nixa has been named in 2021. We were named a couple different times by different places that aggregate data and kind of come up with their own concoction for determining what the safest cities in Missouri are. Every single time we were the safest one in the Ozarks area, Southwest Missouri. We was rate pretty high in the state for safest communities in the city, or in the state. And then also regarding transparency in policing is that NIBR's participation is allowing folks to have more transparency, be able to look into our crime stat data more easily than they could before. So all of that is kind of really related to this, this objective of protecting the safety of our community. Any questions about our progress on community safety?
I have one question, but I think it's probably going to be geared more towards Chief Campbell. I think it was number 2 on the officer training. What kind of additional training do we do that involves kind of looking at current events and what happened in this situation and how we can train our officers on that? The reason I ask is I just recently read a story about a guy who walked into a police department and was kind of going crazy and dumped hand sanitizer all over himself, and then he got tased and burst into flames.
Yeah, so most often in those scenarios, what we have is we have instructors that are staying abreast of those kinds of situations. So, for example, our taser instructor was probably well aware of that scenario before it was ever produced and consumed by the public. And so in that scenario, he would have read the article, done an analysis, and if there were any recommendations from Taser International, for example, they would have pushed those out through the instructors for updates at the line level. And so that happens a lot of times with a lot of different types of training. If we're seeing something that's unique or something that's come through that we haven't seen before, a lot of times the natural course of that is through the instructors or the in-service providing of those trainings so that we can get that information out to the officers. So that's typically how that flows. Does that answer your question?
Sure does. Thank you.
Any other questions about our progress on community safety? All right, well, next up, next time you guys want to have me back, maybe March or whenever you guys would like to the next section update, it'll be on reliable infrastructure. So just let me know when you'd like for me to come with an update on that.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. All right, if Cindy is ready, we will move on to our first reading of ordinances, starting with Council Bill 2022-011.
First reading, Council Bill number 2022-011, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa, amending Chapter 6 of the Nixa City Code by modifying Sections 6-4 and 6-5 so that violations of said sections apply to certain animals within the city limits regardless of where the animal is kept.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. The bill before you this evening for first reading is what I would describe as a way to cover a potential loophole in our code. Sections 6-4 and 6-5 contain the city's animal at large regulations and the city's requirement that certain animals be vaccinated for rabies. As these two code sections are currently drafted, the violation only occurs if the animal is kept or harbored in the city limits. And so when we have situations where animals that may be kept or harbored in unincorporated Christian County make their way into the city limits, which they do, we don't actually have, that's not defined as a violation in the code. So this ordinance, or this council bill for your consideration, is an attempt to shift the violation to where the animal's presence in the city limits is a violation, not where they're necessarily kept or harbored, so that it would apply to situations where we have individuals out in unincorporated Christian County whose dogs or other animals may frequently wind up within the city limits and be picked up by animal control, and there's nothing to charge them for because it's not technically a violation of our code. With that, the changes before you this evening, they were drafted in consultation with the police department. Staff recommends approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about this.
I like this, Nick. It reads a lot more clearly.
Thank you.
All right. No questions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick. I will open up the public hearing if anyone would like to speak on this matter.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, I'm kind of conflicted on this one. I was reading through the city council bill there. I was reading through the ordinance, and I noticed that dogs are mentioned a lot. Of course, I'm a dog person, so, it's kind of a threat to hear about, dogs in an ordinance and getting in trouble because your dog ran away and stuff like that. And then it says something about chickens and pigs and other animals and everything. But where are the cats? Where are the cats? You're missing the word cats in there as much. We hear a lot about the dogs and the chickens and the pigs, and we don't see the word cat very much. I think it's only in there just once. I think it's going to make a whole bunch of cat people very sad that they're underrepresented in this bill. So, I don't know. I'm a dog person, but, I'm trying to have a little bit of empathy there. Other than that, it makes perfect sense.
Well, and I'll just point out, the point's well taken, and that was an internal discussion that we had on this. The ordinance does add "or other animal" to the at-large portion. So before, it was limited, actually, to those certain listed animals. One of the changes that's being recommended is to add "or other animal," so that it would cover cats. The difficulty there is the city has a registration scheme related to dogs and miniature pigs, which makes it easier to, once an animal's picked up, to refer it back to, whoever the owner is, and then you know who to charge for that because they've got, an animal registered with the city. There's no such scheme for cats. I'm not aware of one either, so it would be a violation, but I'm just telling the council in full frankness, it'd be pretty difficult unless there's like, a smoking cat, to, really pin whoever the cat is with the violation.
The problem is it's easier to catch a dog than it is a cat.
All right. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? All right, I will close the public hearing. Move on to our second readings of Council Bill 2021-121.
Second reading, Council Bill Number 2021-121, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa approving the preliminary plat of the Riverton Park subdivision generally located along the east 1400 block of North Road and authorizing certain city officials to take certain actions upon the filing of a final plat.
Those certain city officials are Cindy, myself, and Doug, if you were curious. This bill would approve the preliminary plat for the Riverton Park subdivision, which you can see here. It contains 232 single-family residential lots, all located in the R1 single-family zoning district. All of those lots are designed to be served by municipal utilities. That includes municipal water and wastewater and electric, and they will all be all of the stormwater runoff will be managed in a system that is contained within the subdivision and detained as required by the code. This subdivision also includes some off-site improvements that you see here, a center turn lane added to North Road at the intersection where this subdivision intersects with North Road, as well as an emergency access road, so that in emergency situations, emergency responders have a second way in and out to this subdivision if the primary way in and out happens to be blocked in the interim between when this is developed and when there might be another public street intersection with this. So you can see there's some sub-streets to other adjoining properties, as obviously won't connect to the rest of the road system until those neighboring properties develop also. So in that interim time, this emergency access road will provide the opportunity to access or evacuate the subdivision in the case of an emergency. Subdivision is planned to proceed according to the 7 phases that you see here, as long as the preliminary plat remains valid. There was a public hearing held on this preliminary plat before the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-1 to recommend its approval. Staff is also recommending its approval.
Any questions? Thank you. We'll open up the public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this one. Fair enough. We will close the public hearing. Anything else from council?
I have a question. I may be a little bit dense on this, so you really have to explain it to me. I'm an old person, okay? This is in our Nixa city limits, but it is in the Ozark School District. Have we talked to Ozark School District about allowing them to be pulled into ours instead?
That goes to the state, though. That's not a decision that's made between Nixa and Ozark.
Can the developer petition the state for that?
I'm just curious. I think if I was that close to a school,
Oh, yeah.
I'd be a little
I
upset.
also heard that like 5 of those houses are actually in.
Mr.
the
Hines
school
might have
district.
something.
I mean, I'm just curious. I don't know if the school has done it. I know we had a problem with Ozark at one time about some subdivision on the other side of Riverdale because they wanted that to be annexed into Ozark because it's on that side of the river and they're very expensive homes. And we said, no way, because we get the tax dollars for that. Ozark will get the tax dollars, but they're still in the city of Nixa. So it's just
Yep.
curious to me if there's a way to work that out.
Yeah, please.
Please do.
Okay, Clayton Hines with Schaefer and Hines. I didn't hear your exact question. Was it, I know it was about the schools.
If there's a way that we could work with Ozark to, and instead of this kids having to go to Ozark schools, that they could be pulled into the Nixa school district. instead
Yes,
of having
okay.
to go to Ozark.
So I did check on that. I talked to Kevin Kopp with Nixa School, because obviously we would love for it to be a Nixa school just because the subdivision right next to the schools, which is good for a lot of reasons. He didn't have all the details to it, but he said it's so incredibly hard that if you really want to look at it, but he said the chances of getting this through, he off the cuff thought it would take Nixa school approval, and you got to think of money. Everything goes to money. So there's different levy rates between what Ozark and Nixa is. So it's going to take the voter approval of Nixa, the voter approval of Ozark, plus maybe some state work. It was just a lot of steps. And so we didn't even pursue it. But we did ask the question, because just in case it was, can we trade you some land? How about we get this and Ozark you get that, or something? And it just didn't seem that easy. But we sure did ask,
Okay,
because we
cool.
would love for it to be that way.
Well,
So,
thank you.
good.
Thanks for trying, Clayton.
Any other questions?
Okay.
All right. If there are no more questions, can I get a motion?
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat. Yes. Sean Lucas.
Yes.
All right, now we will move on to our resolutions. First one, Resolution 2021-011.
Resolution number 2022-011, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa continuing the authorization of the beautification facade grant issued by resolution number 2021-012.
Drew, can you bring up those same slides, please? Just about a year ago, the city council approved authorized a grant for the owner of 107 South Main Street to improve the facade under the terms of the Nixa Beautification Facade Grant Program that the council had previously approved by ordinance, which allows for people to apply and then receive grants up to 50% of their project with a maximum cap at $7,500 per grant opportunity until funds run out in that particular given year. The city council approved the grant at this location for these facade improvements that you see here, and this amount was all the way up to the maximum, which was approved $7,500. The terms of the grant are that you have to complete the project within 6 months, which didn't happen in this case. In this case, the deadline was July 11th of this year. The facade grant project was not completed by then. Staff received notice last month that the project had been completed, along with a request for an extension and request for the release of the funds to provide it. The cause for the delay explained to staff was shortage of materials, time it takes to get stuff shipped in, et cetera, et cetera. Same kind of difficulties that the city and other people in that line of work are experiencing. So a reasonable explanation. The adopted guidelines for this program say that extensions can be granted. Don't explain under what conditions. It just kind of leaves it open that extensions can be granted. So presumably, the city council then is authorized to grant extensions like this if they so choose. So this is what the completed facade looks like now. This is a before image. Oops. So staff is recommending the authorization of the extension. We've already got the paperwork that we need to provide to release the funds. We just need appropriate authorization of the extension in order to do that.
Garrett, are they going to do anything with the upper portion of the building?
No, they did not. Not as a part of this project. I believe they intend to, it just wasn't a part of this.
It looks so much better.
Yep.
It certainly was a worthwhile project when it was approved. 6 months did not change that in my mind.
And then I'll also just add real quick that of that $7,500, that would have to come out of this year's budgeted amount for the facade grant. We currently have $15,000 budgeted this year. So that could potentially limit the amount of future facade grants we give this year, although there is always the possibility of coming back to council if something were to come up for additional funds. But I just want to make sure that council understands that will come out of this year's facade grant funds, not last year's.
Did last year's get spent, or does it just go away?
Well, it goes to reserves after that, because it doesn't just carry over. It's a new budget year, so, yeah. But yeah, the money's still there, it just went to reserves.
Any other questions? All right. We will open up the public hearing on this. If anyone would like to speak. All right. Go ahead and close the public hearing. My personal opinion is I think everyone up here knows how hard it is to get things lately. If it's that hard to get toilet paper at times, I would assume it's probably hard to get some of those materials. And we agreed to do this, and I feel like an extension is definitely worthy in this case. So
Yeah.
that is where I stand. So, if I can get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, our next resolution is 2022-012.
Resolution number 2022-012, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with the City of Springfield, Missouri to share in the costs of imagery purchased from Pictometry International Corporation.
Evening. This resolution would authorize the city administrator to enter into a contract with the city of Springfield. It's an intergovernmental agreement that a lot of the entities in both Christian and Greene County participate in to share in the cost of the purchase of orthophotography, which is the aerial imagery that you see in the maps that are made here for council, but it's also the imagery that we use to perform a lot of analysis in both planning and development in the utilities realm. By all of us in the region participating together, we're able to share in those costs and dramatically reduce everybody's costs in the participation itself. Nixa's costs this, we do this about every other year with all of the same entities. Nixa's cost for this round is $10,461.40. It's actually a very good deal because we get the entirety of the product, which has a value of approximately $300,000 for our participation at the level of $10,400. So it's a very good deal for all of the people all of the entities that do get involved. We're going to get a much higher resolution product this time around for the same price that we paid last time. So even though the price is the same, the quality of the product is actually going up. So to just give you an example, we get oblique orthophotography, which is approximately a 45-degree angle from all 4 directions. We're looking at City Hall right here, and these are images from 2020. So from all 4 directions, and then of course the bird's eye view that you typically see on the maps we make. So we'll have access to all of this, as well as a couple of licenses to a web-based software that enables us to take this oblique imagery and perform measurements, including height and depth, which can be handy when you're on the phone talking to residents about their questions about their neighborhood and where things are. These things all become actually very important from a customer service perspective. So staff is recommending the approval of this resolution, and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Garrett. We'll open up the public hearing. All right, we'll close the public hearing. Any more questions? Nothing? All right, can I get a motion?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, moving on to our last resolution, 2022-013.
Resolution number 2022-013, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute certain contract documents with Vermont Systems for rec track hosting and card processing services.
All right, so if I'm squinting, just bear with me. My battery on the computer said it was done tonight. This resolution is to grant permission for the city administrator to sign contracts with rec track or Vermont Systems. If you're not familiar, Vermont Systems and rec track are our program within the Parks Department for all of our registration, membership, reservations, programming, point of sale, concessions, everything. These 2 agreements will first allow Vermont Systems to go to hosting our website or hosting our program, in which they will take over the hosting, removing it from the city servers. And we'll be able to do all of the routine maintenance and things during our overnight off hours. We go to bed one night and wake up the next morning, everything's updated and keeping us up to speed with all of the security measures and things that we need for running credit cards. The second agreement will move our third-party card processing services from ETS to Vermont Systems, who is now getting into that end of the business and able to run and process all of our credit card transactions for us. Obviously, there are fees and card fees, and so our card fees would switch over and we paid to Vermont Systems. Those card fees balanced out or estimated out to basically what we are currently paying. So there's not really a difference there. The fees look a little different in their shape and what they charge for, but in all, overall, based off our 2021 numbers, we come out to roughly the same as what we're currently paying for all of our card services.
Is there any customizations that might be lost going to a hosted solution versus on-prem?
No, sir.
And do they-
Everything's web-based for us right now anyways, so
Okay.
there's really not all that much on our servers. it would just switch over where it's being hosted from.
Do they believe this might help with downtime in the future?
Definitely.
Okay.
Now we upgraded in 2020 right before the pandemic to a web-based version of RecTrack, which has been great. The only time we really lose connection to WebTrack at this point, or RecTrack at this point, is when our internet is down. And so this will certainly help in there. The biggest and best thing for us by being hosted will be those upgrades and updates as they come. They will automatically kick through the system and automatically do that versus having to take the downtime during our business day to allow Pitt to do those for us.
Have we looked at a backup for the internet? You both laugh like you.
We are currently working on that,
Okay.
working with Pitt Technologies right now on possible solutions for that.
Okay,
There's a few things we've got to work through, but we're on it.
perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
So how would that interact with like a program that we're looking at to do for the citywide stuff that Jennifer's mentioned a few times?
Yeah, with the ERP stuff, if I understand correctly, and Jennifer, correct me, but Baker Tilly has not found a product that would be able to encompass what the
That it
Parks
would
Department
or would
needs.
not?
What's that?
That it would or would not?
Would not.
Okay.
And so Parks would need to remain with something like RecTrack or Vermont Systems for our programming. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. All right, we will open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak on this software. All right, we will close the public hearing. Could I get a motion?
So made.
Second. Ms. Darlene.
We'll give that to Darlene.
Yeah.
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 Good job, Darlene. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Perfect. And then I believe the next thing, would that be Mr. Woodman?
Yeah, just to direct council's attention to, I provided a memo in the packet regarding the city's state of emergency related to the COVID-19 pandemic. You will recall that in July of 2021, the council adopted ordinance 2211, which made the city's state of emergency coextensive with the state's state of emergency related to COVID-19. On December 31st of 2021, the governor of the state of Missouri allowed the state of emergency to expire. And so I just wanted to report to the council that by extension, our state of emergency has also expired.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Woodman. And we don't have any mayor or council reports. So, Mr. Peterson, take it away.
But Mr.
Yes,
Before you
sir.
do that, I just want to make an announcement. Congratulations to Cindy Robbins.
Yes.
Effective January 1st, became full-time assistant city administrator.
Yay. Very well deserved.
Give you a piece. Nothing else from staff, council?
Nope.
Mr. Peterson?
I move that city council go into closed session under section 610-021-3 and 13 of RSMO so that the council may discuss the hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of an employee and any individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to the employee. I also move that this closed session, records related thereto, and any votes taken by the council during the session shall be closed under section 610-021 RSMO, and that the city council shall stand adjourned after the closed session.
I second that. I second that.
We do roll call or all in favor? Roll call, please.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrand,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Justin Orff.
Yes. B minus.
Man.
Couple mess ups, not